So what's your moon phase? Do you know? Me, I'm a waning crescent, born right before a new moon, and I've always felt somewhat detached from this reality and more connected to the other one out there. Your moon phase indicates part of your soul path as described in Stephen Forrest's classic Book of the Moon. Find out yours and how it can help guide you on your soul path. Pick up the audiobook now on Audible with no subscription necessary or Apple Books. TGI Friday on June 28th. Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology Podcast. Welcome back as we wrap up this last week of June together for just a few minutes at least, talking about what we discussed yesterday, the retrograde phase of Saturn for 2024. It begins tomorrow, 3:06 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern. Saturn will be going back in the sky all the way until November 15th. So one thing you're probably saying is the United States election then will be with Saturn in retrograde. I had to peek, and without doing too much on this, I checked the last two elections, the 2016 and 2020. Was Saturn retrograde during either of those? No, it was not. So I know some of you are thinking, well, then could some of the Saturnian characteristics of delay come in because now it seems like we can't get a president elected that night? Well, yeah, I mean, that could be, but that's been there without it too. But, and there's always a but, right? The election of 2000, George Bush, the hanging chads, you remember all of that? Yes, Saturn was in retrograde all the way into January. So we'll file that one in the You Can't Make This Stuff Up department and just watch and observe what happens this time. So some of the characteristics of Saturn that are going to be affected by the re-words. Let's talk about those in a minute. Let's take on the characteristics of, and that's one of the things. Saturn is about delays. I've got Saturn on my midheaven right now. Everything about work is just moving slowly, progressively slow, but slow. The upside of that is it's building solidly. It's building to last. You know, it seems like everything that's being built today, if you're in a new office building, you can hear the meeting in the room next door. Or if you're in an apartment, you can hear the people doing what they're doing at night next door. Things are built cheap, not to last. Saturn builds things to last. Longevity. In fact, if you want to extrude that even farther, something that outlives you. Now we're talking legacy. Saturn's influence, that slow and steady, the tortoise really did win the race. Things can be built so well that they are in existence even years, decades, maybe even centuries after your death. The thing we don't like about Saturn, one of the words that defines it, is discipline. And as Lord Karma, we think of the cosmic version of just you wait till your father gets home. Those hours of fear and terror as you awaited the discipline that you knew was coming. We don't like to wait today. And with Pluto getting ready to finally etch its way into Aquarius over the next year or so, Saturn's whole method of structure and discipline, oh no, that's not going to play well in the don't tell me what to do 2 decades of Pluto in Aquarius. But astrology is built on polarities. So there's go and there's woe. Saturn is woe. Saturn gets the bad rap here because it tends to portend the shadowy side of the chart. I mean, we have to face it. It's part of our lives. It's there. I mean, I've done nothing but face that for the last 15 years. It's all documented in the Subconscious Mind Mastery podcast. Looking at the shadow in order to complete it, resolve it, and move on. That's Saturn. I saw a post online some time ago that the person said, I'd rather actually have Saturn influencing whatever it is than Jupiter. And the pile-on comments were in agreement. I mean, Jupiter can magnify. Jupiter can bless, yes, but so can Saturn. Jupiter's may not last as long. Saturn is there to build it in, to bake it in. So these retrograde periods are reword periods. Renew, revise, reassess, reevaluate, review, reposition. You're probably coming up with many of your own. That's what we do between now and November 15th regarding these areas of our deepest spiritual growth areas, our deepest secrets, some of the things we may have stuffed in the closet need to come out. We can do it voluntarily, or the universe and karma can help us along. Better to just sit with a nice cup of tea in your journal and bring it out yourself. But we have to go deep. When I was literally retooling my life at around age 50, one of my favorite techniques became doing the opposite. I watched that Seinfeld episode, George Does the Opposite. It's on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's only about 3 or 4 minutes long. And I laughed at it, and I also applied it, because I realized if I did the opposite of things I had been doing that didn't work out the way I wanted them to, as Seinfeld said so brilliantly, maybe they would work out if I just did the opposite. I changed the way I was doing things and got a much better result. Now, when Saturn turns retrograde on Saturday, and then Neptune on Tuesday, we will have 3 planets in retrograde because Pluto is already there. Chiron goes retrograde the end of July, then Uranus, Jupiter, and Mars. I have a chart on the website there, funastrology.com, and then go down to just below Buy Me a Coffee, and the retrograde link is there, and I have them broken out by beginning date. And I think we all remember even last year very clearly when all of these outer planets are in retrograde, it just seems difficult to move things forward. One by one, we're notching ourselves that way. This is a really good season right now here in summer when a lot of people are playing and taking time off to be diligent to our tasks. Get things done now that you'd like to see completed by the fall and into the beginning of next year, because a lot of these retrogrades overlap into 2025. Uranus, Jupiter, Mars will all be into 2025. Neptune and Chiron go into and through December. So there's a lot of slowing down ahead of us now, and it will take a while for it to get fully in effect. But between now and Tuesday, 3 big ones in retrograde, and we're going to start feeling it here down the road. So be diligent while we still can. Have a good one. I love you. We'll be working on our souls, working on our path, working on growing stronger, working on following our highest timeline deeply, really, genuinely. Nothing wrong with any of that. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. I love you. See you back on Monday.